Okay, hey guys, it's Jack here from Peach Guitars, and today is the big one. It's the big daddy of amp shootouts that I've been waiting to do for a long time. But before I get into this video today, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to the Peach Guitars YouTube channel by clicking the link down below if you haven't done so already. Okay, so as I said, this is the big one that I've been waiting to do for some time, and now as the shop is shut to the public, it now seems like the perfect time to make some proper noise with some 100-watt Marshall style amplifiers. Now, we've done a few of these amp shootouts before where we've taken three similarly voiced amps but with some crucial differences and pitted them against one another. And I wanted to do that this time with three Marshall Plexi circuit amplifiers. And I actually want to treat this video not just as a shootout, but also as a little bit of a demystification of what this amp term actually means, Plexi. So let me break this down. I want to demystify two different things here today. The term Plexi in the amplifier world is bandied around willy-nilly. It's been applied to so many different styles of amp circuits with so many different levels of gain, but I want to actually kind of clarify what I feel this actually means and what these amp builders put into their designs and signify as a Plexi sound. So the term Plexi kind of denotes amps of the late 60s and early 70s, of several different brands in fact at the time that did use this kind of design of having a plexiglass front panel on the control panel of their amplifiers. But obviously it's most commonly referred to as the Marshall sound. Those are probably the biggest, best known brand to use that style of amp, but it literally refers to just the cosmetics of the front panel. So obviously in terms of the sound, everyone's got a sound in their head when you say the term Plexi, and to a lot of people it's that quite fairly well driven, mid-rich and quite a bright sounding amp sound. But, however, as I said, it's quite a vague term in the sense that so many people now are coming out with amplifiers and pedal designs that claim to be the Plexi sound and have maybe lost touch a little bit with what the original Plexi sound actually was, in my opinion. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, stick a pin in it, as to what I think denotes a really good Plexi sound. Okay, so in exploring this theme, I'm going to prove my point here. I've got three different amplifiers from three different manufacturers, and all three claim to have their take on the Plexi circuit. But you'll notice that each one sounds significantly different from the last, and that's testament to the simplicity of this great amp circuit. And it's also testament to the fact that every builder that's ever kind of tackled this circuit ever since Jim Marshall back in the day has had their own ideas that they wanted to implement on their design. So what's great nowadays is that you've got several high-end, really intelligent amp designers who just wanted to put in some more user-friendly features to help you tame that original 100-watt monster design. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm not mental. So I'm not playing these amplifiers unattenuated. I am using, from Fryette, the brand new Power Station PS100 unit. And that's basically just enabling me to run these amplifiers at a sensible volume. I'm not pinning them, I'm not cranking them as high as they'll go, but it just allows me to get the amplifiers to open up a little bit and then tame the volume so that it's a more usable sound. So I'm running it through a Friedman 2x12 cab today, and I've run all the amplifiers, even the amps with master volume circuits, through the same Fryette unit so that I'm getting a consistent kind of feel and tonal property throughout. So in the interest of simplifying this whole comparison, I just wanted to give you two different sounds from each amplifier with two different guitars, kind of the cornerstone of classic Plexi combinations. I've got a great custom shop Strat and a great custom shop Les Paul. And I'm also using a couple of effects on the floor. I've got a bit of spring reverb on the cleaner sounds that you're going to hear coming from a Line 6 HX effects. And the only gain-based pedal I'm going to use is an exotic EP booster with the gain set at about 9 o'clock. You're going to hear me turn that on and off throughout each playing segment. Alright, so I want to start with the most obvious choice here, which is of course Marshall's own offering. So I've got the 1959 hand-wired edition of the Plexi circuit here today. And this is what Marshall think is kind of the best recreation of the slightly more mid-60s amplifiers. So I'd say like 67 and early 68, before the Plexi circuit really evolved into a more aggressive, slightly higher gain and brighter sound. This hand-wired amp basically takes that on. So it's a lot smoother than some other Plexi sounds that you might have heard. It's still the very same basic circuit though, of a non-master volume two-channel design. You've got one high treble channel and one normal voice channel, and it's really getting the blend of the two together that gives you that elusive Plexi tone. So the Marshall to me sounds the most open and the most dynamic, and it kind of coins the phrase touch sensitive when it comes to talking about amplifier designs. You've got 100 watts at your disposal here, and it basically just means that you don't have to crank everything. These Plexi style amplifiers provide such a great tonal foundation, and I kind of wanted to prove that point with this amplifier in particular. You can use this amplifier in any situation if you kind of have some great outboard technology like the Fryette power station or anything else that will enable you to just attenuate the volume a little bit. You don't have to crank the amplifier and get distortion from it. Of course you can do that, but these amps just make for such great tonal platforms to build off with pedals, and you find a lot of pro players and modern session players even are using this style of amplifier just basically as a different color in their clean amp arsenal. So this, compared to a Fender style amplifier, obviously it's got its own thing, but I think the quality of its clean tone is just as high as that of any kind of other amp circuit that you may have tried. So as I said, the Marshall is the most simplistic of these three amplifiers, and I just wanted to kind of get the very best out of it. So I'm going to show you two tones, one which is very much clean with just a slight hint of breakup, particularly with the humbuckers in the Les Paul, and that provides such a great platform for pedals. As I said, you're going to hear the exotic EP booster that I turn on just adds a nice little bit of body to the tone, and it also helps to round off those sometimes a little bit spiky and harsh edges that you might find with a bridge pickup. The EP booster just kind of smooths that out, and it's something a lot of players would have done back in the day using their actual Maestro Echoplex units. The preamps in those devices really help to tame those high treble frequencies of these Plexi circuits. It's also worth pointing out that here in the UK, this Marshall 1959 Handwired is in fact the cheapest of these three amplifiers by some significant margin, so that may factor into your purchase decision if you're looking to pick one of these up. Alright, so I want to move on to the Suhr SL68 amplifier now. This is kind of the bread and butter for John Suhr. When he started out developing his own amp designs, the Marshall circuits that he was originally modifying were really where he kind of cut his teeth and gained his own understanding of these amp circuits. So the SL68 is kind of his love letter to those early Plexi designs, and it's his take on what he feels kind of the best Plexis ever should have been all the time. So being a Suhr product, you've obviously got that mega consistency factor that every one of these amplifiers has the same circuit, it has the same kind of tone, and that was not something that could be said for vintage Plexi circuits. Every amp varied a little bit, but John Suhr has kind of nailed down all the consistencies that he wanted to implement into his own amp design, and that's what you've got in this model. Now there is a 50 watt version of this amplifier available as well, the SL67, but the 68 really is the main kind of the big daddy of these amps, and I just wanted to include that in the running, obviously up against these other 100 watt heads. So on the surface, this amplifier is incredibly simple, as is the case with the Marshall, but there are a few tweaks that John Suhr has made to it just to make it a little bit more usable and to kind of give you a wider array of different classic Plexi tones. So I like that he's kept the control panel really, really clean and simple. It looks exactly the same as a traditional non-master volume Plexi style amp, but on the back panel you do have a very, very cleverly implemented post-phase inverter master volume, which enables you to just tame the volume of the output of the amp and use this in a wider array of situations. As I said though, for this comparison today, I wanted to make it fair on all the amps, so I'm not using that master volume. It's wide open, and I'm using the Fryette to attenuate the volume to the same level as I did with the Marshall. Now I do think that this amp goes for the slightly later era of Plexi tone, so it's a little bit brighter and more aggressive and has a tiny bit more gain on tap as well. So you'll hear that I think it suits when I go for a slight crunch tone with this amp. It really enables that to kind of open up and give that kind of classic impression of a Plexi circuit that most people will be thinking of when they think of that term Plexi. And this amp will enable you to do that a little bit easier by way of the fact that you have high and low power options. So this amp basically has an internal variac which drops the amp to a lower voltage, enabling you to push it a little bit harder and kind of get a little bit more juice out of those output tubes without having the same volume level. And it also impacts the feel of the amp as well. So when I'm going for the crunch sounds that you're going to hear in this video, I am using the lower power variac mode to get a little bit more sponginess and compression in the tone. Okay then, so lastly we're onto the Friedman, and this is Dave Friedman's kind of kitchen sink amplifier, if you will. This is his BE-100 Deluxe, and it's the current flagship model in the Friedman amp range. Now, obviously on the surface, this amp is way more complex. It's a 3-channel amplifier, and you've got a ton of voicing switches on there that Dave wanted to put in to kind of give you so many different flavors of classic Marshall tonality. But I'm focusing only on one channel of this amp, the clean channel, which he claims is lifted straight out of his small box amp circuit, which initially was developed as his take on the most classic kind of Plexi circuit that he could develop. So when you take away all the knobs and the switches that are on this amplifier and you just distill it down to that basic clean channel, this amp really nails that Plexi vibe. It's very open sounding, but it's also very polite. This is definitely the most easy amplifier of the bunch to play in terms of getting a good tone straight away. You don't have to work that hard with the controls to get the sounds that you want to get. And you've also got a really nice smooth range of gain, all the way from a very sparkly clean to that nice gradual kind of Malcolm Young level of crunch. You can obviously push this amp a lot further. It's a lot more versatile than the other two amplifiers because you have the BE and HBE channels, as well as a ton of different voicing switches. But if you just want to go for that wide open Plexi kind of feel, this amp will do that. However, I will say that in classic Friedman style, he's just smoothed out the edges nicely for you. It makes this amp a lot more fun and easy to play than the other two, but it might not necessarily give you that classic wide open abrasive Plexi thing if that's what you're going for. Alright then, so there we are. There's 3 different amp designers here putting their own spin on the classic Plexi circuit, and I want you to decide which is your favourite. Let me know in the comments below what you think and what you think each of these amps' strengths are. The best thing about this style of amp is it is such a simple design that each builder can implement their own character into it, and you as a player can also pick out the finest attributes that you want to suit your own playing. So I'm sure that there'll be one of these 3 amplifiers that will suit your playing more than the others, and obviously it's tailor-made for different guitars as well. Now, as I said, this is a great platform for effects, but I want to keep this comparison really simple, just with a simple boost and a little bit of reverb. So hopefully you're going to get the true character of each of these amplifiers as we go. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoy this comparison. This is one of my favourite amp circuits in the world. It's such a tried and true classic, and I wanted to just put the stamp on what I think a good Plexi should sound like, with a couple of different sound examples on each of these amps. So I really hope you enjoy it. If you do, please make sure you like this video and you comment down below with your thoughts as well. And if you want to find out any more information about any of these 3 amplifiers or any of the other products that I'm using in the video today, you can of course do so by going to peachguitars.com. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching as always. I really appreciate it, guys. I hope you're all staying safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.